Hello, all. Thanks for joining us today. And this is part of a series of webinars Indian Institute for Human Settlement is organizing in connection with the Urban Fellows Program UFP 2023-2024. So we already have webinars on UFP admissions and scholarships and an interactive session with our alumni. So today's webinar we will take a detailed look at and a discussion, of course, around our UFP structure and curriculum. Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Neeti, a member of the faculty cohort teaching this program. So today's webinar, my colleague Divya is also here. Divya, could I request you to take a few moments to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am also faculty at IIHS in the School of Human Development along with Neeti. And I teach, different things on gender, urban health, informality and social protection are some of the fields that I work on.
So we were thinking that maybe first few minutes we will walk you through the curriculum structure of this program, and following this we can have a discussion around this. So please type in your questions in the Q&A box. So Urban Fellowship Program 2023-24 is this is the 8th batch of this program, and our 7th batch will graduate in the next month. So UFP is our flagship program, and it is a scholarship-based 9-month full-time residential interdisciplinary program based at IIHS City Campus in Bangalore. And this program actually introduce learners, or we call them fellows, to diverse forms of urban practice. And we spend a lot of time and energy in developing this curriculum for this program. And this curriculum is also co-created in partnership with world's leading universities, also, and in addition to nearly 100 practitioners and scholars from India and abroad. So now coming to the program. So this program is structured across 3 terms called commons, electives, and practice. So I'll take you through each one of these layers. So first layer is commons. Commons actually functions as the nucleus of this entire program, and because this is the term, this commons term is designed to help the fellows to understand the major questions like what is urban, especially when we look at it from Indian cities. And also this term, we address issues around the complex nature of urbanization in India. And through this term, we try to capture and understand the different approaches, systems, aspects, debates, discourses, policies, practices that actually make up the urban in India. Now how do we do that? In the sense, how do we teach this layer or this term, commons term? So we taught this term, or this term is taught across 6 overlapping themes or layers, and which include planning, issues and concerns around urban planning, identity and social practice, law, governance and policies, infrastructure and services, urban economy, and urban ecology, environment, and sustainability. So when I say that this term is actually taught across these layers or these concepts or modules, we don't treat them as watertight compartments, because we will be always going back and forth across these modules by taking questions from one module or cases from the other module, and then look at it in the next module, and then try to, based on our learnings from earlier modules, we try to look at it. Okay, this is the question. This question we approach in the first module in this way, but when we go through identity and social practice, we can look at the same question or the same case or the same issue from another angle. Or if you look at it from the sustainability lens or sustainability module, this whole policy concerns, look in a different way altogether. So in that way, this the whole purpose of this commons term is to create interconnections between these different layers. So it's not an easy task, right? In the sense, pedagogically, these connections, to create these connections and to develop these connections, it's not an easy task. And we, in fact, address it through various ways. One is that one direct way or easiest method is to approach it through different themes. In the sense, we take a particular theme, and then as and when we progress different layers or different themes, we look at this particular theme using the newly acquired concepts or theoretical understandings or other themes which we learn from these different layers. So for instance, if we take a theme like lakes and wetlands in Bangalore, so so that particular theme, the first layer of this commons, that is, let's say, the we look at it from the whether it is from the governance perspective or we look at it from the planning perspective. And then again, when we go further, this particular theme we revisit and we try to understand the interconnections in this particular theme across these layers. Another one is actually a kind of a site-based approach. So we have a component called practica, so where we actually take the fellows, or the fellows get a chance to interact and to understand the real life experience which is situated in the city. And then fellows in the in groups, because this is the first exposure the fellows get to work in the real life situation and a site in a city. And then they take a particular theme or particular question or particular concepts or a couple of themes and concepts, and they develop their own research question and a small bit of research they do there, and that's how they understand this. Another layer is another way of understanding the interconnections among these layers is IHS being a research think tank and a research space. We, the researchers, and the research which we do across various themes, may it be labor, that's where I do my research mostly, or it is land or infrastructure or housing. So we bring in some of our insights, our research experiences, our practice experiences into classroom and try to bring in this interconnections among these different layers. So this is how we have designed the whole commons term. And the major focus of this term is then to develop a common vocabulary and a set of conceptual and theoretical perspectives. And most importantly, this term, commons term, actually tried to develop a common language collectively of the interdisciplinary urban practice. So in that way, the interaction of these layers, the questions, the concepts, ideas, and so on, thus build the interdisciplinary foundations of the understanding of urban in this term. So this is pertinent for us because, especially at this stage, because the first stage, and this is where the first exposure the fellows get about urban, the broader theme urban. And it is important because the learners, if you look at our learners of this program, they come from diverse interdisciplinary background. That is, we have learners from social sciences, humanities, arts, media, journalism, architecture, planning, and so on. So when learners from these diverse background come to UFP classrooms, and when they listen to, for many of them, this is the first time they are listen to some of these concepts or some of these theoretical inquiries or some of these terms, all this. So in that way, to develop a common language around the concerns of urban and the language around the interdisciplinary understanding of urban is very important, and that's exactly what we do in this first term, that is the commons term. So this then provide us a smooth entry into our next term. That's what we called the elective term. Divya, would you like to discuss about the elective term?
So the elective terms is where fellows get to choose, unlike the commons, which is literally common for everybody. In the electives term, the fellows get to actually curate their own, sort of journey out of the UFP program in some sense, right? So in every cycle, you will pick one elective, and these electives are sectoral. There are thematic electives, there are theoretical ones, and there are also what we call as method or technical electives. And I'll give you an example of all of them. So you can choose. So perhaps if you come in, as somebody who's already studied economics and you want to further that knowledge, so you could do a bunch of courses that deepen your knowledge in economics, or you could say, it's something that I've already studied. I want to learn something completely new. So you could actually choose wider instead of going deeper into something. So that's a choice you get to make. When I say methods or sort of technical electives, we are talking about things like ethnographic methods. We are talking about spatial skill. So mapping, for instance, we are talking about large data analysis. We're also talking about media kind of skills. So these are all parts of what we call as the method or technical skills. The second set is what we call thematic. So it could be housing, it could be infrastructure, it could transport, it could be very particular themes that you are interested in. The third set is what we call theoretical. So for example, the Southern Urban Theory is a good example of a theoretical course, or urban and regional economic development. And the fourth set that we have are, I'm blank about which one I missed. So there's thematic, there is technical,
Practice.
sector. Sorry?
Also practice.
Practice. So, so you get to choose from across these different strands, and you can decide what your basket of elective courses can look like. Now, along with the electives, you will, at the end of that term, you will also get to then move into 3 different strands. So it could be either what we call as an independent project, or what is an internship, or the third option that you have is of doing a live project at IIHS. Now, live projects are projects that are already taking place within IIHS, and you get to be a part of it. You get to see how we do either client-facing or internal research projects. Internship is where you go and work with another organization outside of IIHS, where you get to be a part of their work and their projects. And the third one is an independent project, where if you have a research idea, or if you have an idea that you want to flesh out through the term of your UFP, you can find mentorship within the institution and use that as an opportunity to actually work on your own independent project for the length of that term. So these are the 3 ways in which the term is divided.
So as you can, you must have heard now. So it goes in such a way that in the first layer, that is commons, where we look at urban from a very broader and interdisciplinary understanding of this. And then we go to much more focused. That's where the elective terms take you. That is, electives then, as Divya had rightly mentioned, will help you to identify those electives which goes closer to your interest, and or those concepts which you really want to explore more, or those technical skills you want to learn, and so on. So in a sense, from broader and then to the elective, and it's, at the same time, even at the elective level also, you get a chance to, some of these electives have very deep field component. So that will also help you to then engage again with the field aspect. And then from here, that's when the third part we start, as we had rightly mentioned, that is the practice component, which has 3 layers again: independent research, and then you have your internship or live IIHS projects. So this is how we have structured our IIHS curriculum. And then another thing is that at the commons term, all fellows will be sitting together in the classroom, and they all have to go through this common terms, because as I had mentioned earlier, this is the nucleus, this is the anchor, and this is what actually provide you all the concepts and all the theory and all the discourse around urban. But at the same time, but when we move to the elective terms, the class will be basically, it will be smaller groups, the learning will happen at the smaller groups, that is another thing. And both at commons term and at elective terms, we will have co-teaching, and here we promote co-teaching quite a lot, because even if we look at the faculty here at IIHS, we come from different interdisciplinary background, so that then helps to develop our discourse, at the same time to develop the classroom discussions with a very strong interdisciplinary base. So we have our academic team supporting us. So Smita, could I request you to share the details about our curriculum structure?
As Smita is doing that, I also wanted to add that, even if all of this seems like a lot of information, the key here is peer-to-peer learning. So even if you come from various different backgrounds, there is an opportunity within the classroom for each one to learn from the other who's sitting next to you or in the same space. So you may feel like some of these topics are alien to you, but the very nature of interdisciplinarity is that we come from these varied backgrounds and then build a core understanding of some of these topics that we are going to learn in the commons. So it really is a very wonderful opportunity to, be in a classroom where no big group is going to look like another, right? Everybody is going to be from a different background in terms of their disciplines, and hence has this opportunity to really interact and learn from each other on all of these core themes that we have in the commons term.
So if you look here, you can see that in the UFP curriculum, the first term, that is the commons term, and this commons term has 6 core themes, which I had mentioned earlier: the urban economy, law and governance, identity and sustainability, planning, infrastructure, and so on. And as a part of it, as I told you, as I mentioned earlier, so to create a kind of connection between these 6 layers, we do it through various pedagogical methods like practica. That's what I had mentioned earlier, that is going to the field and see the taking a particular what you call a particular field in the city, and then look at a particular theme, or to develop a particular research question and then working on it. And integrative cases, that is another example through which we create a kind of connection between these themes. That is, but for instance, that's where I had mentioned the case of, if you take the case of lakes, and then how do we look at this particular theme? For instance, if you look at it from, let's say, even economy, we may want to look at it from the livelihoods around that, right? Or if you look at it from the governance, how do we look at the governance of a commons, or if you look at planning, we may look at it from a different lens altogether. So that's where this practica and integrative cases help us to create connection between these different 6 layers. And then we move to the elective terms. So that's what we had mentioned earlier. We have different types of courses: sector specific, thematic, technical or method based, and theory, and so on. So Divya, would you like to talk about your elective about gender in the city?
So this year I ran a course called Gender in the City, where we looked at gender from various different kind of lenses. So we looked at how it plays out in labor, for example, how it plays out the idea of leisure, and how it plays out with the idea of location. And within these, we had multiple different themes. So we looked at exercise, for instance. We looked at where do people work, where do people get educated. We looked at how people experience the city in terms of transport or movement and mobility. So all of these, so it was a thematic course in that sense. So we looked at one theme, gender, and then cut it across various different kinds of layers. So that was one course. I've also been teaching a course called Ethnographic Research Methods, which is a methods course, or a what would we call a technical course, where we talk about all, not just the the idea of how do you use these methods, but also what is the sort of logical or philosophical rootings of this method, and how does one build sort of an ethnographic lens while doing urban research. So these are the two electives that I've been offering for several years at IIHS. I've also in the past co-taught urban health, where we think of health not as an epidemiological, issue, but we mostly look at it from a socio-economic and cultural lens, and from our own research experience of working on, say, maternal health or informal work in maternal health and child health and so on. So that I would call a sectoral cut, where we look at health as sort of one very specific case that we are interested in.
So I teach an elective called Urban Work, Labor, and Informality, which mainly focuses on the informal work in the city. So that elective, it actually cut across sectoral, thematic, and theoretical, because at different stages of this elective, at some point the elective will be focusing on the theoretical understanding of informality. Some other level I'll be looking at, when I look at the different components or the structure of informality, that's where I may have to use the lens of thematic or lens I may have to use. And when we look at a question like informality, I have to look at a lot of data and then data interpretation and so on. That's where I have to use the lens of different techniques, how to measure informality and so on. So here we can see that there can be some electives particularly focusing on particular requirements of issues around urban, and some electives will cut across through all these themes. And then we come to our third term, that is the practice term. That's when fellows get a chance to be part of and to do projects, to do some small bit of research. It can be kind of a dissertation form of research, or they can also be part of various practice oriented inquiries, or if they want to get out of IHS for a short period and then experience how whatever they have learned in the classroom work elsewhere. So, and then they can opt for the internship. And internship also, we have a very structured mechanism. Thank you, Smita, for sharing this. So we have a very structured mechanism where we, over the years, we have developed various organizations. When we think about this, when we develop this set of organization, again, we have a very clear demarcation of organizations focusing on practice, organizations or even institute which are focusing on research. And so like that, catering to the pedagogy of UFP, we have again developed the list of various venues where our fellows can opt for the internship. At the same time, fellows can choose, bring in their own suggestions about internship, which we will take a look at it, because we don't want to have any difficulties in this whole process. And once we approve it, fellows can even do internship under the organizations or of their choice. So over, I think, last 7 years, more than 250 alumni, we can see that our fellows have been have done internship with government, public sector government, or different government departments, or private consultancy firms, or even with NGOs, or with movements, or with like that, according to their interest and the concepts and the ideas they have learned from the classroom, they got a chance to do their internships. So Divya, would you like to add something more?
No, we can take any questions if there are. So if you have any questions, please do type it out in the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll take it from there.
Please feel free to type your questions here. So as we had mentioned earlier, so when we present or when we discuss about this UFP structure in this way, it may sound quite complicated and quite complex, but it's not that complicated once you come to classroom or when we do this. So 1 second, I think something here. Yes, please, you have to type your questions here. Yes.
Also, if there are any questions regarding the application process, which many of you might have started already, and we are happy to also address that.
So there is a question. Could you please tell us how would skill labs run parallel with the commons or electives? Yes. Divya, would you
So
like
the
to?
skill labs run commons. Yeah. So the skill labs are basically designed such that, in the commons term, you get to learn certain core skills. So we think of writing, for instance, as a core skill. And very often they go parallel with the commons in the sense that, the models that you're learning there, some of those exercises will sort of follow through in your skill labs also. So that is why they are going parallel to each other. In the elective term, the skill labs are one of the types of electives that you can take. So when we say methods or technical classes, they are actually what we call skill labs in the elective. So in the elective, in the elective cycle, you can pick one. It could be either a thematic, a theoretical, or a skill-based elective. But in the commons modules run parallel to the skill lab. So you will be learning both of these simultaneously within the same.
And some of the skill labs. So we have when the electives run across different what you call tiers or layers. That is, we had mentioned you that we have 4 cycles of electives, right? So some of the skill labs you can choose. First skill lab can be very basic skill lab like a qualitative research method we had mentioned, but the next one can be an advanced research method. So someone who really want to focus on research, perhaps then take these two. Or somebody want to, just want to experiment with something entirely different. So something like how to make documentary or want to work with GIS lab. So they take electives and also skill labs according to that. And so, you're free to choose whichever skill labs you want to. But at the same time, especially in the commons term, since we are looking at the question of urban and the complexities related to urbanization, there are certain skills which are highly necessary for the learners. So that is anyway compulsory, and all the learners will go through, will be associated with different skill labs, and they learn those. Yeah.
There is a question from Shrishti on the decision-making timeline. We're just going to get that pasted here so that you know exactly what those dates are. In terms of the application process, if you have any particular question, that would be useful for us to answer. But as you will see on the application, you have to give, there is an essay that you have to answer. You also have to put in a sample of work. There's a two-step application process. The first is where you do this written application, and the second step, if you get selected in the written application, then is the second step where we have interviews, where you'll meet online with an interview panel, and we will sort of pick up from your written essays, and we will have a few more questions for you. And that is sort of the process that we follow. So it really is to understand what are the ways in which you understand the urban, and what is it, what is your curiosity of the urban? What is it that is driving you to come join us in the UFP program? So that is the process actually of taking somebody into the program.
And another question: what are the job opportunities after the fellowship program? So our fellows, as we had mentioned earlier, they come from interdisciplinary background. So some of them actually take this as an opportunity to learn new skills and get back to their own field. For instance, so those who have those who already have training in urban planning, so some of these learnings which or the skills which they acquired through this UFP program will help them to go back to the same field and work in that sector. And at the same time, we have a lot of our fellows who are working in NGOs. Many of them are working in private consultancies and as consultants and so on. And many have actually, some of them have joined various, civil society organizations working in the sphere of movements and so on. And many have gone to focus on research and higher studies, that is going for PhD programs and so on. So in this way, we can see that our fellows have chosen the entire different array of venues they usually join afterwards. Okay, how does the program connect fellows with with the potential employers or job opportunities after completion of the program?
So one of the pathways to it is through your internship. If very often those who go into your internship, that is the place where they actually get in touch with, the employer or potential employer, for instance. So some of them can get converted into a job in the long run. But we also have a very detailed sort of job market list, which we will share with you, and that you can apply to at the end of the fellowship program. But the internship is a great opportunity for you to explore if there are any particular directions that you want to take for your job post the program. But as Neeti mentioned, it's a very, very vast network out there. So from government departments to think tanks, to a wide variety of NGOs and social movements, people have sort of joined all of these post the UFP program.
In fact, interestingly, one fellow from this cohort wanted to focus on her writing, and she's actually the concepts and the field experience and the insights she has gained through this program. She's actually focusing on writing a novel around cities. So it's really a diverse set of opportunities what these fellows usually select. Uh, Interview date, it will be there. Smita must have already shared
it's
it.
Just she's put it on the chat already,
Chat
so you can look at the important dates list, and that's also mentioned.
Yeah. The sample.
Divisha, yeah, you can. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, same one, Divya. Yeah, go ahead.
So Divisha, you can actually put a link to your blog, but make sure it is the link exactly to your piece of work and not a generic link to the blog, because you won't be able to search. So if you actually written an article, just make sure you link it to the right, the absolute correct page that you want us to go through. So that would be really useful. In terms of what do we look for in an application, I think one is your motivation. What is it that really excites you about learning more on the urban? So you have to be able to convince us that you're really, interested in sort of having some kind of trajectory or a future in thinking about the urban, right? So you want to write an application where it tells us a little bit about your experience, a little bit about your notion and understanding of what the urban is. So in your essay, we want you to be as much as you can be. So be right from your own personal experience. That will really help us understand and assess how committed you are to this field of work in the future.
All we want to see is, or hear from you is you're genuinely interested in this whole idea of urban. We are not really looking for, so what I want to convey here is that don't try to share something which you can't relate to, or you think that, oh, this is not an issue enough to get into urban program. No, that's not what we are looking at. However simple it is, or however, what we want to see is how genuine you are, how honest you are for this whole program, that's all. So another question, I'm really excited to apply. So I just want to clarify if there are any specific skills or themes that the reviewers are particularly interested in seeing in the writing sample. For example, would they prefer to see samples related to developmental projects rather than commercial projects? As the application only requires one writing sample, I want to make sure that I select the most relevant one. Yes, that is important, that you have to select the most relevant one. But for us, we don't have any such specificities. That is, whatever is important for you, you can share it as a part of your application procedure. It can be even an assignment you have done as a part of the course you have done prior to this, or it can be a blog post what someone had mentioned earlier, or if you have published elsewhere, or even an essay which you haven't published anywhere, but this is something which I'm just writing for myself, but I would like to, if you would like to submit it, which is again around the theme of urban, you're welcome to do that. So we don't have any such criteria regarding the nature of the theme of the written matter. But it is important that since this program is focusing on urban, it should be something related to that. That's all. Now the language. So we always when I mention our classroom is quite diverse and interdisciplinary, this is also another thing, in the sense, if you look at our website, you can see that we get students from all across India, and also students coming from tier 2 cities, and the students who, not students, actually fellows, right? So the learners who don't have English as their the language, first language in classrooms and so on. So in that way, to be part of this program, language is never a kind of a barrier. But and also we faculty members, we are also from all across the, we speak different languages, that is, so in that way we can support you to a certain extent. And we have various other support mechanisms like word lab, and so we are even thinking this, we will be starting very soon language support programs to help the fellows. But by saying this, let me just tell you, you this is also a reading and writing. This program prioritize reading and writing as well. So I don't want to pretend that it will be that, you don't have to use English at all. It is the language in the classroom. English is the language in the classroom. We use English, and the readings are mostly in English. Though we have initiated some attempts are going regarding the translation about the reading and so on, but it is only at the initial phase. So it will not be all that easy for students who are not very comfortable with English. But let me tell you, we have a very strong support mechanism. And then especially we assume that with this language support and so on, we will be able to help you in this whole journey. Yes.
I just wanted to add that in the classroom, you can express yourself in languages other than English. So we've had many instances where, fellows have spoken in the classroom in Hindi, for example, or, any other language that they're more comfortable in. And generally peer-to-peer learning does enable you to be comfortable in any language that you want to talk in. But having said that, as Neeti said, English is the medium of teaching. But we are open to supporting fellows who require additional help to be able to cope up with what's going on in the classroom. So that's an interesting question. Yes, I mean, we have, over time done a bit of back and forth with the different modules in the course. For example, during COVID, we had to completely redo our curriculum structure to be able to deliver this program online. But once we've gone back to the offline classroom, we've been able to retain and go back to our older modules. This year, the new thing is the practice term, whereas in the past, the project used to be a part of the elective term and the internship was after the program. This year, one gets to choose between the three things, between the project, live project at IIHS internship and the independent project. So that is sort of the new element where we are giving you an opportunity to work on a project within IIHS, for instance, for 2 complete months instead of just one day a week. So that's a big change in the way this has been designed. And that has this new change also come because we are sort of experimenting with, what has really worked in the past and what new ways that fellows have imagined this kind of engagement with different parts of the curriculum. So that is the exciting thing this year. We are very excited about the practice term and all the many, many possibilities it sort of opens up for engagement within the organization and outside.
And just to add one more thing, so every other round, we make it a point to expand our elective, the elective available for the learners. And this year, so we have 4 cycles, and this year across 4 cycles, they had nearly 16 electives. So so in that way, we kind of expand the different types or category of electives available to the learners, and that we also do that by involving sometimes even experts from outside IIHS, so that the fellows may get a chance to interact with people who are experts in some particular sector which we don't have expertise, in-house expertise. So electives are another in that way space where do quite a lot of experiments. Any other questions? It's a very interesting question. So, in fact, I would say that to write this exactly in the application form and then to say that you would like to explore the issues which you are interested in and explore the scope of these issues in the urban space itself is a reason for you to come to IIHS, right? So, because some
I
of this.
also wanted to add that. No, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, because some of these concerns, may quite rural, we think that or we assume that may be relevant only in the rural setting, but, by coming and being part of this program, perhaps provide you multiple lens and multiple concepts to look at it in a more effective manner in the rural space, of course, and at the same time to identify and to recognize the existence of such concern in the urban sphere, and to make yourself much more equipped and skilled to look at it in a different space altogether. Yeah.
I wanted to add that the idea of urban for us is not just the big metropolitan cities, but also to think about the peri-urban or the small towns and cities. So when you talk about the rural, you can also put it in contrast and comparison to what your idea of urban is. So it need not just be Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, or Chennai and Calcutta or Hyderabad. It can also be the smaller cities. It can be towns. We had one fellow this year who has worked quite extensively in the health sector in very remote parts of the country, and she was able to bring a perspective to class that we deeply valued and cherished. So it's absolutely an interesting part of the application process. If you're able to tell us how you think that transition from the rural to the urban, or the continuum from the rural to the urban, is something that you imagine, and what it feels like to you.
I'm not clear about this thing, internship after fellowship. I'm not
Yeah, so the
sure.
internship is part of the program. So 7 months
Yeah.
of the taught program, and then 2 months where you get to choose between internship or the project at IIHS or your independent project. So yeah, it is part of the 9 months
Yeah.
that you are at IIHS.
Only thing is,
For us, no, we don't have a specific rural sort of focus. As I said, this is the course which is called Urban Fellows Program. But when we look at urban, we don't think of it just as a metropolitan city. So that definitely then tells us how, in connection with the rural, or in comparison and contrast with the rural, the urban works. But this is mostly a course on the urban.
let me just go back to the internship question. Only thing is that internship is part of the practice term. That's all. So where it's not, that's what we were trying to tell you, but it is very much part of the fellowship term. Yeah.
Yes, Srishti, absolutely. Point taken. And so tell us about this experience. Tell us about what is it that really has shaped you, and what are the ways in which you understand the rural and the urban. So if you're able to bring out these elements in the application, that would really be helpful for those who are looking at your application. Divisha, we
We,
can't assure you this is the
yeah,
right trajectory for you,
but
but definitely there is, both of these are a core part of IHS understanding of the urban. We have an entire module on infrastructure. We have several climate change experts within the institution. So both of these are very well integrated into the curriculum, or in both the commons as well as the options that you have in the elective term.
and
Neatly, if you wanted to add.
as we had discussed earlier, so the focus here is not kind of solution centric, in the sense solution to some particular aspect or some issues and so on. So we want to actually provide you a whole set of these themes and layers and concepts and so on. So in that way, as I would also support what Divya had mentioned, we don't know is it the right in the sense the right step towards it, but yeah, one thing we can assure you that we have expert in these aspects, so that will be helpful for you to take a call about what is the right track for you. Or perhaps some of our fellows, we always tell them be open to learn new things and the skills and so on. So you may come and you may participate this program thinking that this is what I want to focus, this is what I want to expand, but it's only after coming to the classroom and being part of the discussions and interacting with the experts and interact and whatever you learn from your peer, you realize that, oh, there are some other aspects and I am interested in these aspects as well. So in that way, be open, and we never know, you may learn something else as well, and you may eventually want to move in that direction as well. No, yes, at the end of the fellowship, you get a certificate, and it will clearly have all your, kind of a mark card, which you can take it ahead for your higher studies and so on. And so that will be helpful for you. It's not referred as, or is the fellowship also referred as any course? I didn't get it fully, but you get a
Yeah.
certificate just like any other courses, and it will have all the courses you have taken, and the grades you have received, and the projects you have done, all that.
All the transcripts will be very clearly laid out, and several of our fellows have gone on to pursue further studies, whether it's a second master's or a PhD program. And these transcripts are completely valid as a full fellowship program. In fact, it has also helped them with their application process for further studies.
So, are there any more questions? Otherwise, we can close this webinar. Perhaps we'll wait for another minute or so just to see if there are any more questions. For curriculum of IIHS in short. So I think you have uh, joined a little late. So we have we have given a detailed at the same time a structure of our curriculum. One second, could I request Smita? Could you please share it once again? So that will help you to get an idea about the curriculum in short. So our academic team is there. They will share this curriculum, the structure of our curriculum. So these are the three terms: commons, electives, and practice terms.
In the meanwhile, I can answer, Pradyumna. I'm not quite sure I understand your question. What do you mean by the topic is good for what? Do you mean for the application process? If you could clarify that for us. Kiran, yes. I mean, there are lots of electives that might be of interest to you. So, for example, we in this last year, we may not have all of them repeated again, but I'm just giving you an example of what the kinds of courses that we've had the last year. We've had an elective on climate change, for example. We've had something on sort of looking at measuring climate change, which is a very specific skill. We've had disaster risk and resilience. So there are a number of courses that speak to sustainability, that speak on environment and ecology. So those could be of interest to you in the electives term.
So, Pradyumna, I was just thinking, one thing, let me tell you that we don't have any good topic or bad topic. So, just feel free to write about this and write it in the application. And, as I had mentioned earlier, all we want to see is that you are interested the themes around urban, and you would like to learn more about urban, and you would like to interact with people who are working in the field of urban and so on. So there is nothing, we don't have any bad or good topics in that way. So yeah, that's it. But at the same time, I can see that we have a GIS lab here, and they also provide skill lab support for themes around all this. So it may also be a good space for you to explore more. So I think it's time, almost time. So once again, just take a look at our website, and it is quite clearly given over there about the structure of our UFP curriculum, and these different layers we have explained today, and how do we teach these layers, what are our approach towards these layers, and so on. And take a look at these, and also feel free to write to us. You can write to our academic office, or you can even take a look at the faculty information given in our website. So you can even directly write to the faculty members if you want to explore, especially something like if you are the climate is one thing which you are interested. You may want to look at people who are working in this team, and you may want to just have a interaction with them. So 1 second, I think there is any question. Yeah, yes, Smita, we had a look at this particular question. Yeah. So explore all this, and one more thing, don't really worry about your disciplinary background, because as we had mentioned earlier, interdisciplinarity is one of the major you know thing we focus here. And this program in that way is to emphasize, to focus on bringing together people from different disciplinary background. And the purpose is not to kind of teach someone who is from economics background and tell that person as, hey, this is the you have to how to use some of the tools from sociology, or some of the tools from planning, or some of the tools from some other discipline. So the whole purpose of the program is to create awareness and create a kind of a environment where it is how to learn from, or how to look at the issues and themes around urban through different lenses, through different approaches, and how to appreciate and how to recognize having a multidisciplinary approach towards urban, and how to learn from your peers, and how to be open to this multidisciplinary approach, and the concepts and the discourse and the examples and everything towards urban.
Yeah, I also want to add that in your applications, what we want to see is you. So don't try to give us a theoretical language that is too vague and too broad and heavy and complicated. That's not what we are looking for. We are looking to see a little bit of you in the application process. So tell us who you are, what your interests are, what motivates you, why are you interested in doing this program, and that's what we are really most interested and sort of looking forward to. So we are looking forward to all your applications, and hopefully we see all of you in the classroom also very soon.
Just to add one more thing, if you think that I don't have any training in urban, so just look at both of us. And my training is in economics, and Divya's training is in social work. So I did my PhD in economics, and Divya did her PhD in social work. So in that way, we are coming with a very, our faculty pool is having a very heavy, I would say, interdisciplinary backdrop. So we, in that way, we appreciate, we recognize, and we accept, or we even look forward to such interdisciplinary writing and interest and background of our prospective fellows. So Come over, explore our space, interact with us, and submit your application on time. Looking forward to seeing you in our classroom. Bye, all the best.
See you.
See you.